Keznamdi, what's up, man? How you doing?
We here. Give thanks and praises. We made it. Yeah,
I'm glad that you're here, man. I know you've
yeah,
been traveling a little bit. How's the whole
yeah.
quarantine situation been for you?
Well, naturally we live a very quarantine type of lifestyle, you know what I mean? Because we're just always in the studio, you know what I mean? We're always either performing or in the studio. So, I think it's unfortunate that we're in the middle of a pandemic, but I
Yeah,
think for creatives, it's kind of a good time for creatives because no, there's nothing else to do other than create, So I've been enjoying the quarantine life in the sense of being able to be closer and more focused when it comes to my music. I just dropped my album like 2 months ago, and usually when we drop an album, we head out right on the road,
yeah,
so I break my creative mode, you know what I mean? But this is the first time I've dropped an album and I'm right back in the studio again. So
yeah,
yeah, quarantine, this is how we naturally live, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I've seen in previous interviews that you kind of described yourself as a homebody. You probably don't go
yeah,
out a lot. So
yeah,
maybe this is I mean, you're probably just using a lot of your creative time now more than ever.
definitely, and like sharpening up on some skills, sharpening up on, certain things that I always wanted to do on my guitar, sharpening up on production stuff. And so that's what we've been doing, and definitely home is where I like to be because I travel so much. So this is the
Yeah,
first time actually I'm looking at an entire year and I have no physical engagements that I have to meet, you know what I mean, which is kind of exciting. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
damn, no, it's the first time I get to feel like what it feels like to be settled. Like if it wasn't for quarantine and this whole pandemic,
yeah.
I'd be on tour right now for sure
Hmm.
with all the
Hmm.
dates that we had lined up. I'll probably doing Cali Roots or one of these festivals, or you know what I mean. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I know that you have a big interest in documentaries, man. So have you been able to watch any since this whole quarantine?
definitely, man. Like, yo, that's all I do. Actually, we just watched the big speech that what's his name Farrakhan. Ooh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. We just watched Farrakhan's speech. Where he addressed the whole world, and it was like one of his last speech. It was like a 3 hour long speech, but it felt like a documentary because he gave so much information. But actually just came off of a live what felt like another documentary, Bookman Express,
Hmm.
where he breaks down a lot of books, you know, and I think this one was about masters, the masters of the mind or something like that, and he did it with Kabaka Pyramid, and that
Hmm.
was another very informative live. And then I've been doing a lot of like um audiobooks. I
Okay.
just finished reading this book called Hustle Smarter, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis Jackson. So that was, another nice one to read, just quick read, well, quick listen, so yeah.
That's the 50 Cent one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, my brother actually just started listening to that and he tells me
yeah,
a lot of interesting things about that.
yeah, definitely. It's you don't know it's 50 Cent, but there's 50 Cent definitely is one of those great minds, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why I was interested in it because I I I I, I liked how 50 Cent navigated through the music industry with his talent, you know what I mean? And
Oh
and
yeah.
and the decision making that he made, like some simple things like, yo, when he did that whole big deal with vitamin water, they wanted to give him money for it, but
Yeah.
instead he took equity. So he said,
Yeah.
instead of giving me your money, give me equity. And
Hmm.
equity, and that was one of the best decisions. As simple as that decision was, most people would have probably took the big check, but he took
Yeah.
equity,
Yeah.
and it was one of the best decisions he made of his life. So yeah.
And I mean, in addition of you having a strong interest in documentaries, I heard that you're kind of starting, or you started a project yourself about Bad Friday in regards to the Coral Gardens incident in Jamaica. So, what made you want to do that?
So yeah, we have a song on the album called Justice, and we made a whole short film about the Bad Friday Choral Gardens, because basically a lot of people don't understand the history of Rasta people and how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, when they think of Rasta people outside of Jamaica, they think, oh, it's these Rastas in Jamaica that just happy smoking weed
Yeah.
under a
Yeah.
coconut tree. But you know, Rastas got the history of Rasta. They had a lot of oppression and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
discrimination, and they were considered like the filth of society
Mm.
at one point in Jamaica. You know, where Bustamante in 1963, Bustamante, who was a prime minister in 1963, he issued an order to bring in all Rastas, dead or alive, and he tortured a lot of families, burned down a lot of ganja crops, brought them into prison, cut their hair, and it's funny. It's just so
Wow.
ironic because Rastas is so loved globally because
Mm-hmm.
of their message and the positive outlook, but yet at home in Jamaica, it's more considered like a dirt, filthy
Mm.
kind of thing. So and it's this is history that has been like shrugged underneath the carpet and
Yeah.
hidden under swept underneath the carpet and not taught. So I think it was very important, and I always like to use art to keep things alive and make people know what's going on. So now I created a film, a piece of art that we're aiming to drop very soon. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to go about it with this whole quarantine, and because we wanted to do like an event out of it, but we're just trying to evaluate how we push it out because we want to make sure it get as much eyes as it can get. But
Yeah.
no, I'm happy that we created this piece of art because no, it's in history.
Yeah.
No, you can't wipe this away. And now the
Mm-hmm.
new generation who is listening, it's a lot of young people who are listening to my music who probably not aware of this history. And a lot of
Yeah.
people who have even shown here in Cali or here when I'm traveling in New York or when I'm even in Jamaicans themselves don't even know that this took place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's perfect for that. It's very informative, and now it will forever live on the internet once it's released and will be a piece of art that represent that time that Rastafarians faced during the struggle. You know.
How long did it take you to start making this?
Well, it took us like 2 months of planning first. Where me and a couple directors from LA just was like we had a couple different ideas that we wanted to do, and then we broke it down and we narrowed it down to just the Coral Guard incident, and then we really wanted to make sure it was correct, like the way we
Mm-hmm.
go about the story, and then we had to interview a lot of like Rastafarians who was actually alive during that time and talk about for them to talk about their experience. And we really wanted to nail it the first time. We didn't want to do something like this what is so important for the
Mm-hmm.
culture and joke around with it. So it took us like 2 to 3 months of planning. Then we call a production team. We call a very special lady from Carlene who helped produce the film as well. And then we brought down like 4 people from LA, and they brought down a Irie film camera that's not even in Jamaica. So we
Yeah.
shot the whole thing on real film, not even digital.
Oh
So like
wow.
it took a lot of planning because it's not like you can just shoot with a camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to really be very purposeful with your shooting
Mm-hmm.
because you only got one chance. And this is the first time I've shot a video where you don't get to see playback. All you hear is the film shooting,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we only have so much film, so we
Oh
can't make a
man.
mistake. And then when we got to Jamaica, it took us about 2 weeks. So I would say like roughly 3 months to gather everything together and make it something special. So yeah.
Well, man, I'm a big fan of your music. I've gone through all your music and your albums, and I was hoping to catch a show. I believe you were actually supposed to perform at Reggae Rise Up in St. Pete.
Yeah,
But I was looking up for a
Florida.
schedule for a tour for you, and I saw
Yeah.
probably you have something starting in August. So has that changed
Mm.
at all?
Yes, I don't think I'll be doing any shows for the rest of the year. Like we on the team been talking, and it just doesn't make sense right now. But however, we've gotten back to all of the festivals and to all the club owners and stuff, and we push everything back to around the same time, but for next year,
Mm-hmm.
2021. However, we're going to still perform this album in a very special way, where we're going to be doing later on in this year a very special streaming thing where it's not just going to be on a live, like we're going to really put together something special for the people where we can really do a very interactive kind of performance, special, unique way. So we're going to be doing that where people can log on and just stream with us and come in and join in into the group and enjoy some live, real live sounding high standard music, you know.
I thought I heard something about live streaming that you're going to be doing with Audio Max. So is that what you're referring to?
That is one of them. That
Okay.
is one special one that we're trying to put together, but we're trying to do it in Jamaica
Hmm.
because you know, that's where all the musicians are
Yeah.
already, and you know that's where we come from. So we wanted to do it in a setting where represent where we come from. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard you mention before that you actually get nervous before every performance. So what do you normally do to prepare before going on stage?
Definitely. I think everybody gets some kind. You must get some kind of nerve, something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think in the past it used to break me down, where I get really nervous. But then now I started to understand that it's not really nervous. You can't look at it like that. It's just your body
Mm-hmm.
preparing you to do something of in a performance. You know what I mean? And that's the nerves that run through your body. Where, in fact, I get nervous if I don't get nervous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when
Yeah.
I get really nervous. But
Yeah.
now I know how to use the energy constructively
Mm-hmm.
instead of destructively. You know, and but some of the things that we do, I like to do scales, you know, and warm up my voice. Like do, you know, do re mi fa sol la
Yeah.
ti do. That really calms me down just hearing that scale over and over. You know what I mean? And you know, I do a lot of visualization. So like I like to take a peep out of how the stage looks before I go on stage and
Mm-hmm.
how many people are in the audience, so I can visualize myself
Yeah.
throughout the whole set. So how I visualize my first song, my second song, my third song, and how I visualize my higher self, visualize my
Mm-hmm.
physical self. And I like to do a lot of visualization. And I like to get also a lot of times I like to clear the green room, because sometimes the green room is very busy before you go. But
Mm-hmm.
right before, I like to at least get like 15 to 20 minutes for myself, where it's like me I go into a little meditation. You know what I mean? Yeah, and then I also like sage, and that really calms me down. So when I go out on stage, I actually light sage going out, and I
Yeah.
sage the whole stage, you know, right there before I
Okay.
even sing any note.
Yeah.
So the energy is pure and clean in the room, you know. Yeah. In fact, there was like 3 shows on the last tour that I did in November, the US tour that we did, and there was like 3 shows that we didn't do the sage, and even the band itself didn't, because I go around and I
Yeah.
sage
Yeah.
all the band members, you know what I mean, and sage everybody, and it was our best performances were the ones that we sage, you know, cause
Oh
the
man.
energy in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sage will do that, man. You got to remember to start putting sage again.
definitely, it's a part of our rider.
Yeah.
Have to bring sage. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned meditating, so I saw a posting, maybe something that when you meditate, you think of another location. So when you meditate before every show, where does your mind go?
Well, usually my meditation process starts off with me listening to my heart, listening to my breath, and like kind of like going into a still moment first, because I think your mind is so cloudy and it's such a discipline to control your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the first thing is focusing in on one thing, and I like to focus on my breath, you know, and then when I focus on my breath, and then I get my mind in a clean state, then I start with gratitude, where I think about my heart and I think about the blood flowing through I literally visualize my blood leaving my heart and going to my fingertips, down to my kneecaps, down to my toes, and just like give thanks that there's a system going on within me that's
Mm-hmm.
keeping me alive. And then after I get into that reflective state, then I imagine myself leaving leaving my body and looking at the room in front of me. And then I leave the room, and then I'm looking down on the city that I'm in. Then I leave the country and I get higher and higher. Now I'm looking out at Earth. And then there's a room that I visualize out in Earth that I'm in there.
Yeah.
And then I just get very receptive and I
Yeah.
stay there for as long as I can. And then I come right back down. And that kind of process really, you know, really is a nice meditation. One of these days I'm gonna do a live and walk people through it with me. Because
Oh,
I
I
think
gotta
it would
attend
be
that show.
helpful. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
would be helpful for, yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
awesome. Well, I follow your YouTube channel and you've posted videos titled The Road to Bloodline. Is that a separate
Mm.
project you're working on?
It's actually a documentary. It's a 8-piece documentary that we have in the works right now that we're going to also be releasing. We basically shot the whole recording of Bloodline. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
we recorded the entire project, the recording process of these records.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought as a team that it would be good to put together something where the people who are listening to this project over and over get to see the story behind the records
Mm-hmm.
and beyond the records, you know. So like you get to see the story of how City Lock was made. With a lot of people wondered how that connection was made with Tory Lanez and how that recording was. We have like very rare footage of us in the studio with me and Tory Lanez and Trey Songz actually penning that together and like
Oh man.
showing that. And like even Justice, like the Ariel Edwards who sings "I am looking for justice." A lot of people wonder who this person is. So
Yeah.
I recorded these records while on tour. A lot of it we recorded when we're on tour. So we have a lot of footage that we captured that we want to show the world. So the Road to Bloodline is actually a 8-piece documentary that we're going to release weekly, where like we're going to choose like a day and we're just going to record it, release it every week,
Yeah.
just to, show the people what's up.
This Bloodline album, it's sick, man. I've gone through it
Yeah,
a number of times, and yeah,
yeah,
like I have so much favorite songs on this album, and I noticed that on the documentaries that you mentioned, The Road to Bloodline, and some just material that's been posted, that there's a strong association with elephants. So why is
yes.
that?
Elephants, no. Well, first and foremost, it started when I was a child. My mother, she's obsessed with elephants, and I think also like, so growing up in the house, like just the symbolism of elephants, it's like peaceful. It's very like humbling, gratitude, and like in a lot of different cultures, sim elephant is a very powerful symbolism, you know, and that's where it kind of started. So growing up in the house, we always had a lot of like elephant paintings or little elephant um, pieces that all around the house. So growing up, just subconsciously, it was always there. And then when we moved to Africa, um, you know, I think when I go into Serengeti and Tanganyika, all these nature reserves where no humans are allowed to go, and they're huge. Like Serengeti is one of the biggest, probably is the biggest natural reserve for animals.
Mm,
And like that's like Serengeti is like where Lion King was staged.
okay.
Like that's where it's where the location is for Lion King the movie. So anyway, going to a lot of these natural reserves and seeing lions and giraffes in their natural habitat and elephants. I think elephants, just the way they move, has always been a phenomenon for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then now, it got deeper for me where um, I wanted to retell the story of the elephant. You know what I mean? Where elephant is the real king of the jungle.
Yeah.
I think that lions, it's easy for people to jump and say that lion is the king of the jungle because like a lion have a lot of girlfriends.
Yeah.
A lion just chill, him defend the pride, and
Yeah.
the girl go out there and look the food and all of that and that. But elephants now is more of like a family, or it fit more with
Yeah.
my kind of living. You know what I mean? Where the elephant based on family. You know what I mean? Like when the elephant goes to the water, all the animals feel safe to go and drink. you know what I mean, and eat. You know, when an elephant is vegan, an elephant is strong. A lion can't test an elephant. A
Yeah.
elephant will just step on a lion, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And basically, we're retelling the elephant. And then deeper and deeper, it got deeper, where we started to realize that there's a lot of elephants that are going extinct. So it's also to raise awareness to these species of elephants that are they're being poached for their skin and their tusks and stuff, and it's just to raise awareness for that. And also it's the beginning of a clothing line where, you know, I've always felt creative with a lot of these graphics that you see me, even this one right now that you see, I designed all of these things, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I always wanted to just take it deeper than just merch, you know what I mean? And yeah, that's kind of the whole story of the whole elephant thing. So at first we wanted to just infiltrate the place with elephants without telling anybody,
Yeah.
you know. So like when you see me perform, there's a big elephant behind me. People are wondering what the hell is this elephant
Yeah.
doing on stage. You know what I mean? So it's really, you know, a buckle of the mind first. So we just put out visuals of the elephant, and you know, elephants are very connected to the moon. You know, and the
Mm.
moon is also a very special thing for me because the moon is so powerful. You know, when if you notice, that's why we call it bloodline. On the cover of my album, it's actually a blood moon.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when we finished the album, it was around that time when the blood moon was on. You remember when the blood moon came?
Yeah.
And it was this big phenomenon. Everybody was going outside videoing this blood moon.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how the whole concept of even the blood moon came onto my project. So yeah, that's the whole story behind the elephant. So we're gonna be releasing. We have a bunch of samples that we've been sampling, like different graphics that only the team has. But we're gonna be now starting to slowly release. You know, we already created a page for it. Elephant Blood is really the name of the clothing line,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so
I never looked at elephants the way that you described, which makes sense. I mean, they're a peaceful animal, and a
yeah.
lion does you. I at least for me, I've never heard of a lion picking on an elephant.
No, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You're crazy. They will get demolished, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Maybe they should make a movie instead of saying the Lion King, the Elephant King, because that's the
the
real
elephant.
king.
Yeah, I'll be the director. Yeah,
Well, you mentioned a clothing line, and on your merch page, I saw that you're selling masks with a design of an elephant with what
yeah,
appears to me three eyes. Is there a meaning to
yeah.
that image?
Definitely. You know, well, I'm a mystic. You know, the spiritual world really is an interest of me. You know,
Hmm.
there's many lives that we live, and we live a physical life, but there's also a spiritual life that exists. That connection between me and you, or you and your mother, and the connection between me and a cow, or me and an elephant, or me and a lion, and the connection with all these living things to earth, and then the connection between earth and all the solar system, the solar system, and then all or this solar system with all the different solar systems. It's a very powerful energy that exists whether you believe in God or not. There's an energy that exists that we can't see but we can feel, you know. And it's a big interest to me, and that's what the third eye represent, you know. We always we always keep that third eye open, because energy is one of the first languages I speak.
Hmm.
Before I even say hello to somebody, and they come into my dome or into my surrounding, I can feel that energy right away.
Hmm.
You know, and I'm a dreamer as well. You know, there's a lot of dreams that come to me, that, you know, while I'm, you know, that manifests in this time, you
Yeah.
know, that very mystical. So that's what the third eye represents, to keep that thirst, and that to nurture that aspect of yourself. Keep that third eye open, you know?
Yeah. Uh, Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna merch. I'm gonna buy or purchase one of those masks, man. Those are
Yeah,
cool
we'll
looking
shoot
masks.
one over for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Thank
The
you.
three eye elephant. Yeah.
I mentioned that I'm a big fan of the new album, and I've listened to the first full length album that you had that's titled Skyline
Yeah.
Levels Volume One. Was
Yeah.
this Bloodline album supposed to be originally the second volume of that series?
Yeah, well, the Skyline Levels now was actually an EP, and it was a time when in my life where I was fooling around with a lot of different sounds and trying to find myself in on this musical plane. What is it that I bring to the table as a musician? You know what I mean? That way, when I leave Earth and I exit and I go through that transition, I leave back a frequency that people can love and study and feel connected to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think Skyline Volume 1 had a lot to do with my experimental stage. I was very young when I recorded. Well, I'm still young now, you know, still in my 20s, but I was like my teenage years, like making a lot of that music that came out
Mm.
on Skyline. And it's a volume. So we have many more volumes to come. We're gonna go all the way up until volume 10. But while I was recording Skyline Levels Volume 1 and started to jump to Volume 2, it sounded after getting like 15, because we chose from like 20 records, we chose like 11 records for the album.
Mm-hmm.
And we really zoned in on those 11 records and had a lot. And then because I produce a lot of it, it's a lot more harder work than just recording. You know, it's a lot more time consuming because we're producing everything from scratch, from the first layer to the second layer to the 12th layer,
Mm-hmm.
and stripping it right back down and coming back at it again and trying to figure out what is wrong, what is right. How do are there sounds in these records that are just there and not serving a purpose? Like make sure that everything that is on these records is purposeful. So after recording and getting like 15 records, we on the team, it really sounded like an album. It's really sounded
Mm-hmm.
very cohesive. It didn't really sound like an experiment. You know what I mean? It really sounded like a sonic that only Keznamdi can make.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It never sound like nothing else that is out there. You might can hear my influences, but you can really see where I'm going with the music. And I think it was something new and refreshing to this music scene. So that's why it moved from volume 2 to an album, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have so much favorite songs on the album. I
Yeah.
would say my
Yeah.
personal favorite is I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Chalampang. Chalampang.
Chilumping. Yeah.
Chalampang. That's my jam,
Yeah.
man. That gets me started through the day.
So the Chilumping now is actually a chalice that we smoke in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
So a chalice is a big pipe, usually made out of a coconut,
Mm-hmm.
and you steam it. So it's not smoke, it's steam. So the chilumping is actually a chalice.
Mm.
So basically, now the whole idea behind the song is we sip up my roots with my chilumping. So my
Mm.
roots is also a drink.
Mm.
So this is a practice that I do a lot where when I'm in my vibes in the studio or out out while everybody's drinking their alcohol and stuff, I got my roots, which
Yeah.
is fermented but it's still very healthy.
Yeah.
Usually made out of roots and moringa and all of these healthy things. So roots, and then I sip my chalice. So sip up my roots with my chilumping, and then the whole idea behind the song was actually created about my brethren named Jamel. Jamel is a childhood friend that I have that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he's somebody that uses a lot of herb while he's on the job. While he's on the night shift and working, he has to hide and smoke
Yeah.
because his boss doesn't allow him to smoke. So that's how the idea came from with
Okay.
Chilumping. So that's why I say, Babylon has stressed me out. Can't get no rain in the drought, yeah. Brother, do not make the fire out, cause the chalawa I lift the heavy load. Boy, give me sativa, spirulina, and the roots of that me love, yeah. That me love, yeah. Ganja will sweet to relieve you when you're broke and stressed out. So he's just talking about how ganja really relieve you when you're going through hard times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's really what the song is about, the chillum thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an awesome song, man. I cruise with that song on repeat all the time. That's a
Yeah,
sick
man.
song.
Definitely.
I mentioned like my favorite song, but I heard that your favorite song on the album, which is a song that you've mentioned earlier, is Justice. So what makes that song so special to you?
Um, I think, I think definitely to me, I think justice is the identity of the entire album. Like I feel like 10, 20 years from now, when you look back at this album, I think Justice is going to be one of those ones that cut through the time, because when how you test whether a hit song is really a hit song is not based on numbers, is not based on it's how much a part of culture it becomes. You know what I mean? And I think that justice is one of those topics that will is always going to be something that we can relate to. We recorded justice before this whole Black Lives Matter movement started and got very big. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Before the rest in peace George Floyd, before the killing of George Floyd, and look how relevant it is right now. And because
Hmm.
we live in a very unjust system, it will forever be relevant in the topic. So I think the content of it is very important. And I think the verse is probably my favorite verse on the track, the second verse and the first verse. Them sail them ships upon the land and took the kids of Africans, gave them whips and chain them and them schemes and tricks and master plans, use Bible scripts to slave a man, burn my village, kill my farmer, cage me like an animal. We pray for justice, Father God. First, it was a slave ships, now it's a matrix where mine locked up in them cages and caught up in them technological spaces, taking selfies of our faces while we sell we life like Craigslist. It might hurt when I say this, but the truth we have to face it. So upload this to your playlist, cause the radios now go play this, and the Pope him now go ban this, Uncle Sam him now go like this, Rasta sink, Ku Klux stand like Atlantis, and all political bandits with false promise, lies and antics. Listen keenly to my synopsis, corruption flood the streets like when Japan had tsunamis. These presidents behaving like them is Hitlers and the Nazis. These times are getting drastic from Kingston straight to Addis. So I think
Yeah.
these lyrics are very profound to me. And even how they came about, every lyric on that song was very um critical, and like it wasn't just randomly put there for a rhyme it or a flow benefit. A lot of times I do that. This one was really every word on that. If you go back and read the lyrics, it's very like purposeful, and I really loved how the lyrics and the song came out. And then even though the chorus is that was actually um Errol Edwards is somebody who comes from Skyline Drive. He's
Hmm.
somebody who live up on Skyline, the community where I come from. And he comes and he helps on the land. Like him come and, we have a small little farm that we're setting up as a family, and him forward and him clean it up, and he make sure him look over, and him, not just my land, but him do it all over Skyline. And I heard him singing one day while farming, and I was shocked when I heard the frequency that was what he was creating with his vocals. And that's
Hmm.
when we recorded him. And then now the production, I'm very proud of how that production came about. Like everything in that record is real. It's like the roads that are playing, the organ is a real B3 organs.
Hmm.
The guitars, the bass line, like everything is real. And I feel like it's a very good representation of where I'm at musically. So that's why I'm so proud of it, and I'm very happy. That was one of the songs that really, how I imagined it in my mind, it
Hmm.
came out exactly that way. That's exactly how I wanted it. There's a lot of times I create music and it takes a turn where you didn't expect it to go.
Yeah.
It still come out nice, and it
Yeah.
still come out to be a nice song, but it's not exact. I feel like Victory was one of those songs where I didn't expect it to turn out that way, but I still loved how it turned out. But
Yeah.
Justice was very intentional. A lot of the records on this album was very intentional too, where everything sounded sonically how I imagined it in my mind. So yeah.
That must be like that's one of the best feelings I would say as a creator when you create like videos or songs, at least for me. Like I have a vision that only I can see, but when I get other people involved or if I don't know everything I need to do to get that vision, it doesn't come out the way I originally envisioned it, but I like it. But when I do something that comes out exactly the way I vision it, oh man, that's just the best
Definitely.
feeling.
And then you have to understand that like this earth is made up of thoughts. You know what I mean? The idea of your podcast or your streaming thing that you're doing, that was once in your mind first
Yeah.
before it forward in like that studio that you're in right now, before you put all that foam and soundproofing and thing. You imagine that in your mind, that chair that you're sitting on
Yeah.
right now, somebody thought of that idea in their
Yeah.
mind first. So it just shows you that all of humanity is made up of thoughts, a
Yeah.
combination of thoughts. So when we see that thought fulfill and get manifested into this physical world, it's a very fulfilling feeling
Yeah.
because we're all creators in our own right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to mean that you make a video or a music, but you create. We have to learn to be gods of the universe and not
Yeah.
just living. You have
Mhm.
some people who just live and them them just take the world how them take it, and then you have gods who create their own reality. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Where they create their own life. They visualize it and they work towards it, and you don't work for anybody. You create your own vision. This life is so short lived. You need to live your dream. You mustn't live somebody else's dream. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because before you know it, you're old and gray, and then you're gone to another phase in your life.
Yeah.
So, so thoughts, very powerful thing. Careful
Yeah.
what you're thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope our listeners definitely grasp like all that knowledge you just like dropped on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody that I noticed you have a close relationship with that also is on this Bloodline album with the popular song Victory, but you've had him also on a previous EP as well, is Chronix. So how did you two originally meet and just decide to collaborate?
Well, actually, I met him because we are like minds. There was something special in Jamaica happening where there was a lot of youths making positive music. And I feel like there's always a cycle with this always happening in Jamaica where there's a time where um you would call it say slack music then, or music that, and when I say slack, I'm not degrading it, or just explicit music that is entertaining
Mm-hmm.
and solely just entertainment. There's nothing wrong with that kind of music. So when you say me saying it, I don't want it to come off like I'm talking on to it, because it's not. It's entertainment. But then you have another kind of music that serves a different purpose, which is more conscious and productive, and more conscious music, and tap into a different side of your mind and your soul. And usually reggae music is that. And there was a special thing happening at that time where youths like Jesse Royal, Kabaka Pyramid, my sister Kelisa, Prota J, Janine, the list goes on of all these youths. And because all of us in our own right, we didn't know about each other.
Mm-hmm.
We were just in our little home studios recording music, and then we started to get deeper into our craft, and then obviously like minds attract each other. So I think that's how the whole Chronics thing happened, where we're making we're on similar paths with the kind of music that we're making. We make a conscious effort to make conscious music, and that is charity in itself. Because right now I know how to make a hit record. I know how to make a song that fits on the radio. That is easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I choose to make more music that is more wholesome. You know what I mean? And it serve a different purpose, and that in itself is charity, because um probably a lot of these records won't get played on the radio because it don't have it don't serve that same frequency that the radio is looking for, which is okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm perfectly fine with that. And some of them will, because they just, when the people choose it, they can't deny it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But at the end of the day, you have people who will literally go into the studio to make records for the radio. You know what I mean? But so anyway, with Chronix now, I met him actually through my sister, and the first time I met him, we recorded a song called "My Love for You." That's the
Mm-hmm.
first day I met Chronix, and he was in the studio up at Skyline. He was using the Skyline studio, and he was recording his Start a Fire EP. And I flew in because I was in the US at the time, and I heard a lot about Chronix. He was doing a lot of big things. He wasn't as big as he is right now, but you know, I heard he was bubbling up the place. And anyway,
Mm-hmm.
see him and me say, "Yo, Chronix, big up, respect every time." And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he started to play some rhythms. And within a couple of hours, we had a song. The first day we meet him in person, like I spoke to him on the phone before, but the first day I met him in person, we
Mm-hmm.
recorded a song called My Love for You. When the glory starts growing and a story unfolds, one thing never changes, my love for you. It's called My Love for You. And yeah, and Chronix is definitely one of my favorite artists, like him have all the things that I look for into an artist. We have edginess,
Mm-hmm.
that the lyrics them tough, have melody, can perform, and I think is a very good representation of our music as Jamaicans on the global scene. So yeah man, Chronix man, good youth,
Yeah.
doing big things. Yeah,
Yeah, and you have that really popular song "Victory" with him, which I've heard in an
yeah.
interview. You mentioned that it was actually created by accident. So, how did that come to be?
Yeah, so not by accident, but it wasn't made for Chronix.
Mm.
Actually, it was made for an artist called Jacure.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like pieces of the chorus, and I had the three verses already recorded. And then Jacure is a legend in Jamaica. So at the time I called Chronix and I was like, "Yo, Chronix, we needed to come to the studio and demo this song because I want when Jacure hear it, it just sound profound, like harmonies, everything, so him can visualize himself hearing it." So he came to the studio that same day and he put his genius on it, helped develop the melody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we penned it together, and he did his magic on it. And when he was leaving the studio, he told me, he's like, "Yo, if Jackie doesn't sing it, leave my voice on it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, cool." Anyway, the Jackie thing didn't work out, or I imagined it. And I call him back and I say, "Yo, Chronix, say it looked like a you. And then he called me back and he was saying that he wanted to sing it over
Mm-hmm.
because he wanted to perfect it now that it's not a demo anymore. And I said, hell no, it's
Yeah.
too special. Like we can't record this over, and it's actually a demo. The
Mm-hmm.
Victory is actually the version that we hear today is actually a demo. It
Okay.
wasn't really a real cut of the record.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I also follow you on Instagram, and I saw a posting a while back that you stated that you don't really associate your skin color with your identity. So, could you explain that statement a little bit?
Yeah, I think, as we know, the lighter your skin color, the more access you have to a certain privilege, and that's just a fact. And but my experience growing up in Jamaica was a little bit unique. I'm of mixed ethnicity and race. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That means I have white in me have black in me, I even have Indian in me have a lot of different things in one, in one
Mm-hmm.
body, and that's actually a lot of Jamaicans. A lot of Jamaicans. Actually, the Jamaican matter is out of many one people
Mm.
because there were when first of all the history of Jamaica, just to break it down a little bit, there was the natives that were on the island first, which were called the Arawaks, you
Mm.
know, and then um and then Christopher Columbus now came and discovered Jamaica, which
Mm-hmm.
is total crap. You know what I mean? But anyway, it came in, and those were the Spaniards. So the Spaniards came and colonized Jamaica first.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the Spaniards came, the English came and they conquered and colonized Jamaica. And then that's when the triangular trade happened from West Africa to the Caribbean and to the UK. So it was this triangular trade happening. And that's when they brought thousands of Africans from West Africa to Jamaica. And in fact, they brought the most brutal ones to Jamaica because that's where the most harshest slave masters were. They
Mm.
whip them and rape them and break them down so they can become numb. And then you have the Africans that came. And then after slavery was abolished, because the sugarcane industry wasn't profitable anymore, so they had to abolish the slave the
Mm-hmm.
slave trade. That's when they brought the Indians and the Chinese, for cheap labor. You know, so Jamaica and the Caribbean is a melting pot of many different people coming in one place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just to honor that story, understand story, you know, you get to understand a little bit of my bloodline.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then now growing up in Jamaica, there was a certain privilege that I had because my skin was lighter. It wasn't dark. And but yet being a Rasta, I since I was born I was a Rasta. There was obviously Rastas wasn't really accepted in Jamaica like how it's popular now. It's very cool to be a Rasta right now. It's the
Mm-hmm.
in thing right now. But growing up, it was never like that. Friends weren't allowed to sleep over my house because you know my parents smoke weed and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Going to certain schools, they wanted me to cut my hair because a lot of these schools were Catholic based. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of discrimination against Ras. I know what it feels like to be discriminated against. So even as much as I had a lot of access, my access to that privilege went only so far because we grew up as Rasta people.
Mm-hmm.
And then now moving to so there was a lot of puzzling with my identity at that time growing up, like trying to understand who I am because I never really fit in nowhere. And then moving to Tanzania, I was considered Mzungu, which means Europeans. A lot of times they would refer to me as a tourist. And then moved to Ethiopia, I was more considered a Jamaican, a Rasta,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then moved to California to come and do school. I was considered a black man, you know, with the three-fifths rule. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Where once you're three-fifths, you're a black man. So I think growing up and having all of these experiences, I remember there was a time when I was about 16-year-old, you know, when I was watching a lot of conspiracy documentaries and trying to figure out my truth and where I
Yeah.
stand. I think that's when I started to question the idea of race and what it really is. And whether you want to accept it or not, race is a social construct,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And how you know this is that when you look into nature, nature doesn't really look at race. Like you never will see a black dog discriminate against a white dog,
Mm-hmm.
or 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 a black cow discriminate against a white cow.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see color like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's more about species in nature. Like you'd see more like a big dog look at a smaller dog, not even that much. You know what I mean? And so it shows you that these were just agendas created by greedy um slave owners and oppressors to get greed. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And they use religion, they use media, they use a lot of propaganda to create division between different races and teach you that you know there's a black race, a right race, when that's not true. It's
Mm-hmm.
a human race.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's only one race, and it's the human race. And that is when now, within my mind, I started to stop view myself as not even a Jamaican, not even nothing other than a human being. With that, and that's how I see myself.
Mm-hmm.
Me seeing that in my mind doesn't take away the fact that there's still prejudice that happen in the world. Like if I go into a store here in America, I don't get viewed the same way as another person. You know what I mean? Because you can know that I am not a full white person. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? However, no matter what, I can't make Babylon conquer my mind. I have to still overcome that and don't stoop to their level.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I have it easy compared to other people who are dark and black and beautiful and black and they get treated like dog shit literally. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So but you know that's the whole concept, you know, where we have to really know, realize we can't just take what they give us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we have to really know, teach the next generation that yo, we are human beings. You know what I mean? We have to correct this thing. And
Yeah.
it's gonna take generations because even in the Farrakhan speech that I was watching the other day that I was telling you I watched, he was talking about they start the history that they teach in school of of when the 400 years of slavery started. It was in like 1615.
Mm-hmm.
But however, there's 67 years before that that they never talk about, and it's swept underneath the carpet. Where they don't really teach a lot because those were the years when the first slaves were coming over from West Africa, and they were trying to basically make them forget their names. They would literally make them have children and kids, and
Mm-hmm.
then kill the parents right away after they get the children. That way, the children don't know who their father is, or they don't know that they were once kings and queens. They
Mm-hmm.
make them forget who they are, and it was a brainwashing period that took 67 years, because they say every 30 years is a new generation. So if you're doing it with that much,
Mm-hmm.
they took two generations of people to break down the slave and
Mm-hmm.
to make them now call the slave master master, when and get rid of their natural religion and get rid of all of these powerful things. So there was a special 67 years that they don't teach in school.
Mm-hmm.
They only teach you the beginning of history for Africans is the scramble for Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they begin the history. They don't want to teach you before those 67 years. So it's really 467 years, and yeah, it's identity, is a very powerful thing, and you have to associate yourself with Haile Selassie the first. Say, until the color of a man's skin is no more significant than the color of his eyes, then there's gonna be war.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll forever be war. So why is it that we don't care? Why is it that we put so much significance on skin color? That's because that was an agenda created by a group of men
Mm-hmm.
and man to oppress people with greed. So when I posted that, it was trying to capture all of that what I just said in one post.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't even, there was some people on that post that didn't even respond to it. They couldn't even see it. They're telling me, how could you even say that in a time like that? Because
Mm-hmm.
no, everything is about Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black Lives Matter, but we have to understand that no matter what, black is a color.
Mm-hmm.
African lives matter. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Black people don't have rights because black people don't have rights, but African people do. You know what I mean? And that's where they try to brainwash your mind to make you associate yourself with a color. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not your color, it's your heritage and where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we have to start breaking down these ideas. And it's not easy because we're talking about years of sufferation. So I understand people why they would even respond to my certain posts like that, because it's not easy to
Yeah.
break down that. You know what I mean? It's a very sad thing, and these wounds cut very deep. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why I love the song Justice so much, because it talks about all of this. Them Salem ships upon the land, took the kids of Africans, gave them whips and chainemans, them schemes and tricks and master plans, used Bible scripts to slave a man, burn my village, kill my fam, cage me like an animal. We pray for justice, Father God. 400 years of blood and sweat, and yes, we still a slave. Them take the shackles off with feet and them put it on with brains. Them take we history, press delete and wipe we heritage. A truth and rights until we dead up. Yeah. So yeah,
That's awesome,
yeah,
man.
man.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And Keznamdi, you've actually been dropping a lot of knowledge for us to, sponge off of you, but I'm going to ask
Yeah.
for some additional knowledge. So we're
Okay.
at a recurring segment in this podcast called Words of Wisdom. So this question
Okay.
is, share with us a quote that you live by and tell us why.
Ooh, a quote that I live by and tell us why. Um. No, 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 no. There's a quote that Haile Selassie the first says that this is not it in its direct words, but he says that we must become members of a new race and overcome petty prejudice. And I really love this speech by Haile Selassie the first. He says, "We must become bigger than we have been, more courageous, greater in spirit, larger in outlook. We must become members of a new race, overcoming petty prejudice, owing our ultimate allegiance not to nations, but to our fellow men within the human community. And and the reason why I like that so much is because it's true. It's like the only way we're gonna really find that utopia that I believe that we can really find
Mm-hmm.
is if we become members of a new race and we start seeing ourselves as the human race and not as countries or nations where it's so divided. There's so much division. You can't even travel from one place to another place without a stupid book that needs a stamp and all of this stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
who's creating all of this? You know what I mean? It's one world, it's one earth. And I really love that. I really love that quote. That's one of them. But there's so many, it's just like there's so many to think about. But I really read a lot of speeches from Haile Selassie the First.
Mm.
Also, um, Muji. You ever heard about Muji?
Nope.
He's a sacred spiritual leader from India.
Mm.
Who has a lot of facts and a lot of very good insights. That I also read upon and listen to his speeches online and stuff. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So before we wrap up, is there anything you want to share with our listeners?
Um, Yo, I just want everybody to listen to the album. Bloodline. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this. It's definitely the story of my life told in. It's a chapter of my life that a lot of personal stories that I have on the album. There's a lot of music in it, so with the first listen, you're not gonna get everything. So listen to it over and over so you can really hear what we're doing. Um, we have a lot of music working on it currently right now. So just go and enjoy what we have now. We have a lot of visuals that we're gonna be shooting in the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That we're gonna be because we haven't dropped any visuals from Bloodline as yet.
Okay.
So now we're gonna start rolling out with the visuals and stuff. So very excited for that. And yeah, just stay tuned. Have a lot of excited developments coming that we've been working on over the past couple of weeks. And the reason why you haven't seen them as yet is just because of this whole crazy pandemic that's happening that forced us to kind of reevaluate how we push things out so they don't just go unseen. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Keznamdi, man, this has been an awesome Irie chat with you, man. I appreciate you spending some time and talking with us, and I'm sure our
Definitely.
listeners appreciate all the wisdom that you dropped. And yeah, our listeners definitely catch that Bloodline album. How I usually listen to albums, and you mentioned about listening repeatedly, just muffled earphones and just vibe on it. That's
That's how I intended it to be listened. And really and truly, as I said, there was like 20 songs that we chose. From 20 songs, we chose like 11 songs that we dived in because I really wanted you to, from track one, you should be able to play without skipping.
yeah,
So because that's how you get the whole story. If you just listen one time, after you do that a couple times, then you can just go choose your favorites. But to
yeah.
get the real story of the Bloodline, you have to really listen from track one to track 11. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And well, I love the Charlie Pink song so much that like I'll start going through the album, but it's like it's early in the album. It's track 4, so as soon as it
Yeah,
gets there,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I gotta keep on playing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Peng was actually the quickest song I recorded on the album. I think I recorded everything in like 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes,
Okay.
harmonies, ad libs. And usually I take a little bit longer with my process
Mm-hmm.
of recording. And this one was really like just happened like at the spur of a moment. We were drinking roots, we had the Chilumping. It was a
Yeah.
vibe. So
Yeah.
so that's probably what you're feeling as well.
I felt that vibe that
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
feeling that day.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
Well, this has been an honor, man. I totally appreciate it. But Keznamdi, thank you so much for joining us in Irie Chat, and best of luck on everything.
Yeah, and also, I really appreciate you sharing your platform and reaching out. And it's definitely an honor. Next time we're gonna do this in person. What's up,
Oh,
man? Everything
definitely.
good? Where are you based in Florida?
Near West Palm Beach.
West Palm is my place, bro. I'm
Oh
always
man.
there. All my family lives in West Palm, so a bunch of my cousins and stuff live in West Palm, so that's my place.
Oh man,
You
then
know,
we'll definitely
so
meet up, man.
yeah, so definitely next time we're in Florida side and on West Palm, we'll reach out and we do a in studio interview, and
Oh
maybe
yeah.
hopefully the band is there and we can bring the guitars and we do a special recording. And it's definitely an honor. You know, give
Oh.
thanks for sharing your platform and really enjoy the conversation.